What's the worst situation you've been in that was unquestionably your fault? I've told this one before, but it is worth a revisit. Back in the floppy disk, pre-internet days of computers, I was tasked by my job to do a software installation on Boda Coast Guard icebreaker. I flew from Ottawa to Halifax. Then I caught a taxi to CFB Shearwater, from where a twin otter flew me 1,000 kilometers north to a town on the border of Quebec and Labrador. From there I was flown by helicopter to do an at-sea landing on the icebreaker. I went down to the engine control room, where the computer was located, and laid out the disks. Disk 1, Disk 2, Disk 3, Disk 4, Disk 6. Disk 5 was still in my computer back in Ottawa.
Hey, instead of watching teenagers dancing on TikTok, you could play Raid Shadow Legends, a dark fantasy game on mobile and PC. Yeah, dark. They're running a special Valentine's Day themed adventure, the Raid Love Quest, so you have until March 14th to play a romantic but dark minigame and win some legendary in-game and real-life prizes, like Valentine's Day themed champions and Amazon gift cards worth up to $1,000. Raid has nearly 700 champions, and they just added a new creepy-sounding faction called the Sylvan Watchers. They got forest elves, tree spirits, and other things that would confuse your grandma. The Sylvan Watchers settled in the Mistwood, a huge jungle with not even one Starbucks. Trespass if you dare, but you won't be met with hugs. But they do have a city open to outsiders, Nisriza, and they've made friends with the neighboring Shadowkin and Dwarf factions through shared struggles. Each champion is in tune with nature. Isn't it beautiful? Wait, is that a giant spider? Oh, and look at this cute ogre. Oh no, she killed him! Why? Oh right, it's a video game. I forgot about that part. I'm a big fan of this war priest. Oh my god, I wish I could dress like that. Here you can check her skills, like how she's doing when it comes to freezing folks, how good she is at healing, or how willing she is to listen to your problems when you're sad. Are you a new player? Use my link or scan the QR code right here and get a free starter pack with this cool in-game loot.
I was really drunk and challenged my brother to throw a dart at my hand at a bar as I placed it on a dartboard, thinking that this would make me look like a badass. He proceeded to hit my hand several times, drawing a little blood, but nothing serious at the time. Over the next few days, my finger swells up, and it turns out to be osteomyelitis, a bone infection. Ended up practically bedridden for almost 3 months with a PICC line, a portable IV and a fanny pack, administering powerful antibiotics into my arm and to my heart. This was right after passing the bar and getting a good firm job, which ended up falling through. It's not that terrible of a situation, but it was extremely awkward. There was a kid in my HS class that had the same glasses as me. They were made out of a pretty flexible material so they wouldn't break. He did not know this, so I informed him. I even demonstrated on his glasses by twisting them. Look how far they can bend. Snap. Crap, I snapped his glasses clean in half. My bad. Almost dying from getting stuck in self-bondage. It doesn't get much more unquestionably my fault than tying myself up when I was the only one home for a week, overestimating my ability to get out, not setting up a backup escape, and spending hours fearing that I would die. We had a new wine cellar installed in our store and I had to grab a few bottles from there. I tried flicking the light switch to no avail, so I spammed a button next to it thinking that it might be how we turned the lights on now. A few minutes later, I was leaving the beer box and some cops were waiting at the door. They asked me if anyone else was in there, so I said no. They proceeded to unholster their pistols and clear the area. I went up to the front and my brother was unfathomably pissed at me. The button was our new silent alarm. The cops laughed their asses off at me while my brother chewed me out. I apologized to them for their trouble and he told me, "Don't be sorry for them. You just gave them free training and cost me hundreds." The cops proceeded to laugh much more vigorously. I felt so freaking stupid and bad for my brother. Childhood me's worst situation. I held a remote control car over my friend's sister's head, turned it on, and watched as the tire started spinning in her hair. I think I was 10 and caused her to get a boyish haircut to fix the damage. Early 90s, BTW. My best friend did that. Turned it on his sister's head. Obviously it got all tangled. It's okay mom, I'll just undo it. Puts the car in reverse. Makes the mess infinitely worse. Poor girl. No specific situation, but I've recently come to the realization that almost all of the I had no control over that type of scenarios I've comforted myself with over the years to excuse problematic situations were, in reality, entirely my own doing. I'm older now, and not really much wiser, but at least I've got a change in perspective on what is 99% of the issues which crop up in my life, and what is not, maybe 1% of the issues in my life, my fault. It's entirely liberating to have that new perspective instead of playing victim all the dang time, which is incredibly tiring and depressing. Probably way off course for what the OP was asking, but I think it's at least tangentially related. TLDR. As far as the ARPS question is concerned, likely a DUI in 1996 was my worst era, young and stupid. Second to that would be picking up smoking, although I am today 1 month smoke free. Congrats on 1 month. And yes, once I realized that, not my fault is not an answer, my life improved. In my head I think, may or may not be my fault, but now it's my problem. Falling out the top of my bunk bed on a basketball booze weekend when being absolutely blackout drunk, which would cost me about 2,000 euros of dental costs. That wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was telling my father what happened, and the look of disgust he had on his face. Stuff like that had happened before and he was kind of sick of it. The look of disappointment on your parents' face is a bad one. Will always stay with me. I had just come up to spend the summer with my girlfriend, who was long distance at the time. She and 2 of her good friends, who I didn't know well, had just moved into this beautiful new apartment that was totally a steal for 3 college students. I had barely been there for 3 days and we were rushing around the spacious kitchen because we were making dinner and cleaning, getting ready for a party that we were holding later that night. At some point my girlfriend passes me in the kitchen and shoves her new tea kettle in my hands, telling me to make some tea. So I obediently stick the kettle on the glass-topped stove and turn the burner up to high before going back to what I was doing. It only takes a few minutes before everyone realizes that something is terribly wrong. The house is filling up with foul-smelling smoke, and it's irritating our eyes and throats. I'm starting to cough. What the heck is going on? Suddenly I hear my girlfriend yell, "Oh my god, Petrophora, why would you do this?" I look over and find what she's yelling at, and the source of the smoke. The new tea kettle she had just gotten was an electric tea kettle that was meant to be placed on a base, not on the stove. The bottom of the tea kettle was covered in rubbery plastic, which is now melting all over the new glass stovetop in the apartment that has only been lived in a week, and everyone is choking on the toxic plastic fumes. We had to open every window in the house and go on the deck to wait until the smoke cleared out. The kettle was beyond destroyed, and her friends that I barely know were freaking out thinking that I've ruined the stove and they've lost their security deposits already. I ended up having to drive to the store to get some stovetop cleaner, and spent a good hour scraping off the charred plastic bits. Then I had to go buy my girlfriend a new kettle. It was the least I could do. I was so humiliated I cried all the way to the store, thinking that I'd fricked up everything and her friends, who I would be living with all summer, were going to hold it against me. It was the worst. You are a good person. It was an honest mistake. I hope they saw that and laughed it off. When I was 10 I was playing Skipping Stones with a friend, a game where we tried to match the other person's number of bounces of a stone across a road. I smashed a car window, ran, hit, got caught, had to pay for the window with all the money I had. It was £27. Not a lot, but when you get £1 a week pocket money, and the next day the new Pokémon comes out for Game Boy, costing £28, it was a lot. I resumed saving, and to this day it has been the worst situation I have ever been in, and I have no defense for getting into it. To this day it has been the worst situation I have ever been in. I want your life. After working an 18-hour day of building scaffolding, I was driving a truck away from the site and drove it into a kid's sandpit next to a playground that was next to our building area. In the end we had to call a bunch of other colleagues to come and pull the truck out at 10 PM. The process took around 2 hours. Everyone I worked with was obviously very pissed at me, but were making jokes and stuff, so I didn't feel like an even bigger piece of crap. In hindsight it was funny. At the time not so much. So me and my girlfriend at the time were camping with my parents and many of their friends who has kids my age. In the evening we all get together around a fire with plenty of beers and it gets late. The old folks goes to bed while we keep drinking and chatting around the fire. We're pretty drunk and decides to go to bed. But well, being a he and a she who's young, drunk, and sleeping next together, we of course want to have a bit of fun. We agree to not have sex because we are sleeping in a caravan with my parents literally 3 meters away. Oh, and a caravan tips like frick if you move the slightest. But the masterminds we figure if we just try to move as little as possible no one would notice. Well, I am drunk so it takes forever to come and we get pretty wild. The next day at breakfast my mom just give me the look that shows she was heard everything. Most awkward breakfast of my life as I just imagine how she's been in her bed unable to sleep because her son is freaking a girl 3 meters away. She should have just woken up dad and banged extra loud. My ex GF flew from Cali to visit me for a week in Georgia. We broke up her second day here. I had to spend the whole week with her barely talking to me, trying to figure out what the heck went wrong because she wouldn't communicate to me what was up. It was my high school junior homecoming dance, 16 at the time, and my father let me borrow his brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee to drive. It was awesome, mostly because you could fold down the seats in the back and there was plenty of room. Fast forward to the next morning after, my father, mother, brother and I are sitting there having breakfast at the dinner table. My dad suddenly breaks some awkward silence and says, "You know, you forgot to put the seatbelts in front of the back seat when you folded them up last night." Instant and worst situation ever as my entire family knew we had defiled the brand new car. I was at my friend's house and his chores were to clean up all the dog poo in his backyard. He offered me $10 to do that. So I went into his backyard, grabbed one of his hockey sticks and just started shooting crap balls above his fence in every direction. There was a lot of crap flung onto people windows, sides of their houses, on the roofs, pools, sheds, BBQs, you name it. At the time I thought he would find it funny. Nope. The neighbors came to his parents because he's the only house with a dog. He spent weeks cleaning up crap. I lost a friend that day. Hey, if you want crap done right you gotta do it yourself. I was showering at my girlfriend's house and went to adjust the shower head when it snapped and drooped like a floppy dong. I just figured it needed tightening and didn't worry about it until her father asked me to help him with a little bathroom maintenance. This turned into a 3-hour bonding experience with my future father-in-law over the broken shower head that I caused. My current one. I went into the wrong program in university, didn't switch early enough, and I'm now struggling to finish it while dealing with an extreme loss of motivation because I have no passion for what I'm studying. Almost everyone I know is graduated and in the working world, having a meaningful life, and I'm stuck here. Same thing happened to me. Took me 5.5 years to finish. I graduated college 3 years ago and took over 9 months to find a job. And I'm now in the top 1% for earners in the country. Don't give up. Find something you are passionate about regardless of degree and work your butt off. I don't have a degree for my current job. In kindergarten, I went into the bathroom to hear some guys saying that if you flush the urinal really fast that it would overflow. So I walk up to it, flush it at the speed of light, and walk over to the sink to wash my hands. As I walked out, I see a teacher run in yelling, "WHO did this is the day I got my badass card." Falling face first into a tree while when skiing in the backcountry alone and without any avalanche gear and getting fairly stuck. Doing that is breaking pretty much every backcountry safety rule. I definitely thought I was going to die and just kept thinking how unbelievably stupid I had been. Dang, my friends that live in CO have had several friends die in those things. Tree wells suck. Not me but my best friend. Fresh from getting his license he went for a drive in the country. He saw a mother duck let her ducklings cross the street and just froze, not knowing what to do. So the car just kept going and ran over those little fluffy things. When I was 16 I was driving reckless in my Grand Am along with my friend who was in his giant Bronco. He passed me on a residential street then I went to do it to him. He turned left when I was next to him and his truck was pretty high off the ground so he didn't see me. Our vehicles got locked together and with forward speed I launched us straight into a house. Our cars unlocked but his was stuck in the house. It ended up being a teacher's house from our school too. To make things worse I had to call my mom and tell her and said we hit a house and there was a hole in the side of it. She asked how big the hole was. So I said, oh, you can throw a basketball through it. Then they put it on the front page of our town's evening newspaper and she saw how big it was. Then she was peeved that I didn't tell her you could fit an 87 Bronco through the hole. You're not wrong. You're just an butthole. Back in the early days of online dating, I was stuck on a first date suffering through dinner and movie with a woman I knew I had zero interest in about 2 minutes into the date. My fault due to not setting up a quick coffee drink date rather than the full deal, and since I didn't want to be mean and call it right then and there, I should have used the lemon law. I was at the beach with a girl I had been trying to start a relationship with. Anyway, she wouldn't come into the water and I was trying to convince her to come in with me. I said a little water never hurt anybody. She bursts into tears and ran off the beach. Her father drowned when she was a child. Yep. That's not your fault at all. I'm assuming you didn't know about it beforehand. And a little never hurt anybody is a totally reasonable thing to say in a situation like that. Pretty much my entire life at the moment is the result of bad decisions. 1. Chose an expensive, prestigious undergrad program without being confident in the major I chose. 2004. 2. Nearly failed out of the program, causing a decade-long crippling loss in self-confidence. 2005. 3. Changed majors and transferred to a cheaper school, graduated with honors but again, didn't like my major and chose to not pursue it as a career. 2006 to 2009. 4. Got crappy customer service jobs for 3 years where I was verbally abused on a daily basis and paid next to nothing. 2009 to 2013. 5. Started an expensive MBA program hoping that this would be my escape rope and way to fix my life. Not going well. Grades are good but I don't feel any passion about what I'm doing. It's interesting, but that's about it. 2013 present. I, perhaps mistakenly, relied on my parents' advice in making these decisions, thinking they knew what was best for me, but in hindsight, I don't know. I should have, done things differently. All my fault, of course. But I'm 28 and miserable and just barely hanging on, waiting for things to get better. Takes all I can to keep from just breaking down in tears every day. So, yeah, that's my contribution to this thread. Don't even get me started on my social life, haha. I passed out hard after a long day, but I wasn't planning on going to sleep. I had texted a friend to come over and hang out. I didn't wake up to him pounding on my door or my window. He had parked in what he thought was an available parking spot, but was 2 motorcycle spots with a fairly faded line. The lighting was crappy outside of my building, and he got a parking ticket for it. I felt bad, but I was too broke to pay it for him. I was talking on the phone to my girlfriend when I was in grade 9, and I was feeling badass because I had a lighter. I also had cologne. While we're talking, I'm lighting things in my bathroom on fire. I'd make a puddle of stinky in the sink and set it aflame. The thrill wasn't enough. I progressed to lighting the faucet on fire, blowing it out, and then lighting it again. Then I realized it. The light switch was the key to making this more badass. The novelty of the sink wore off, so I decided to light the towel rack on fire. I blew it out and left the bathroom. I didn't notice my favorite pajamas laying in a heap under the towel rack. When I saw light coming out of the bathroom, I figured I had left the light on, so I went to turn it off. Much to my surprise, it wasn't the bathroom light, but a 4-foot square section of the wall. Thinking for the first time that night, I sprayed it down with the remote shower head while the smoke detector was going nuts. I fessed up to my dad. He called me an idiot, and I wasn't allowed to have any sort of flammable fluids for 6 months. I T-boned a car on my bicycle coming out of an alley. I was unfamiliar with the area, and was going faster than I should have considering that fact. All of a sudden there's a Jetta that pulls out in front of me, and there is nothing I can do. Hit pretty hard, roughly 15 miles an hour. Busted my knee enough that it was swollen for a couple of days. but the occupants were really helpful and didn't press any charges. Since then, I've learned to stop riding like a dong. I caused the death of my best friend Mikey. He purposely drove his motorcycle off a cliff to kill himself in an apparent suicide attempt. Here's the backstory. My best friend, RIP, always had murderous thoughts and tendencies. He used to torture little animals and he said himself it was only a matter of time before he stepped up to humans. I told him he was sick and to frick off and should kill himself. I told him no amount help would fix him, but that was just in the heat of the moment. He looked at me with a smile and said maybe I should jump off a cliff. I assumed he was joking like he always does. But the next day I get a call that he died when he drove his motorcycle off a cliff. I miss him, but he was still a crazy psycho. Maybe you saved some people honestly. I was at a friend's house. We were friends for like a year, but it was the first time I'd gone to his house. I had to take a crap, so I went to the bathroom and did my thing. Well, it was a lot. And with the amount of crap in the pot and the amount of toilet paper that I used, the toilet clogged. I just figured, with my prepubescent mind, to just flip the handle a couple of times and it'd be good. The crap went down and I was like okay good and went back to playing video games. Well, a little while later I heard his dad yelling. We went to go see and he was yelling because the toilet was overflowing and crap and watered down toilet paper were falling out of the toilet. I knew it was my fault. My friend did too. He took the fall since it was my first time over. His dad grounded him for 3 weeks. It was 3 months before I went back to his house. Probably gonna get buried, but I've got this one covered in spades. Was engaged a month before breaking it off. I broke it off for a lot of reasons I don't need to get into, but through guidance we got back together a week and a half later, worked through everything, engaged again a couple weeks after that, and then back to the original wedding date. Her family hated me before I broke it off. They loathe me now and won't even attend the wedding. She's walking the aisle alone. Her dad won't give her away. Most of our best friends can't come because it was too short notice to fly or take work off, including most of our wedding party. Our RSVP list sits at a little under 40 people. We lost a lot of money due to the breakup, so we lost the honeymoon as well. Cake's been replaced with homemade pies. The church has been replaced with my parents' backyard. The photographer has been replaced with a good friend with a DSLR. Thank God we still have the rings and the dress, but that's about it. The wedding's in 8 days. TL. DR. Got cold feet and fricked up my bride's dream wedding. Several months after the guy I had dated for a few years broke up with me, I told one of his best buddies that the guy had a super small penis. I created such total awful awkwardness for the friend, and eventually the entire circle I used to hang with all stopped talking to me because I clearly had done an awful thing. I was honestly just musing with this mutual friend about how it was okay that X had broken up with me. I wish him well and, hey, maybe we weren't going to go the distance anyway. The sex wasn't that great, perhaps because of his unusually small penis. I actually just kinda assumed his best buddy would have known. They shared an apartment. As friends we frequently all crashed together in undies on couches after nights of drinking. But the moment I said it, and saw the cringe horrified look on my friend's face, I realized I had just created a world of crap for him, and me, and my former guy, who was a decent enough guy, really, and everyone. Ugh, still regret it to this day, and that was 20 years ago. If you got a super small penis, you tend to hide it from your friends. Got locked out on my second story balcony wearing a skirt and a diaper. I'm a dude. I had to get a random passerby to alert maintenance, and the maintenance guy basically ran away as soon as he let me back in. A winter morning after dropping my mom off at work, I was driving to my school. I drive out from the workspace and wait just at the road to see if anyone was about to cross the road. A truck is a few hundred feet down the road, but I judge there was enough time to cross, so I accelerate and spin 180 degrees. My whole front is in the other section of the road. I look to my right, and the truck is just heading right towards me, and I knew there was nothing I could do, so I relaxed my body and braced for impact. A few seconds later he is hitting his horn as he drove onto the bike path and got past me. I reversed the car and drove to school. Apparently I wasn't about to die anyway. Me and my sister threw a party on the first night of my parents' 3-week trip to Europe, which got completely out of control. People wound up stealing everything, including all of my mom's jewelry and my stepdad's vintage Rolex collection. That's fricked. I used to throw parties and know all about people stealing crap, but that's just another level. That time when I fricked up my father's new Mercedes-Benz ML320, about 10 years ago. It had been raining, and I thought it would be a great idea to test the 4x4 capabilities of this fine, new automobile. So I had the brilliant idea of going up a hill with about a 30-degree incline, which had a thick layer of fresh mud and clay on it. Of course the car cannot break the laws of physics, so I start to slide down almost immediately. Not only do I slide backwards, but to the right, hitting a wall where the hill was cut to make the road. Said wall was made of mud, rocks and roots. I ended up pulling the car out, backwards, about 30 feet all while brushing up against the side of the hill. The side of the car was totally fricked up. Not my proudest moment, and my father has not let me borrow any car after that. Woke up in a cell after a night of drinking. Most parts of the night I can't remember, and I only know of them because of the police report. I went to Wawa to get some food to cure the drunk munchies. Apparently while I was inside I was spitting on the floor and yelling, so the manager had a cop escort me out. The store just wanted me to clean up my mess and leave. So I did that and the cop took me outside. He then had me call my mom to come pick me up. I guess the cop just wanted to get rid of me and not take me in. I was sitting on the curb waiting and the cop was a few feet away talking to someone. Then I had a sudden sober moment and thought, since the old neighborhood I grew up in and knew better than anyone was right next to Wawa, I could easily get away if I get up and run. So I did just that, but only made it about 10 feet before busting my face on the concrete with that cop jumping on top after. The cop then arrested me, cuffed me in the front, and put me in the front seat. Being the drunken fool I was, I started to thrash around and knock the cop's coffee onto the siren box or some other expensive gadget and utterly destroy it. I woke up the next day in cell with 5 charges and a new best back of .28. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.